Crystal Tower Information Whiskey 21530 Zulu, wind 060 at 5.
076 Mike Juliet, this is departure radar contact.
Ice weather information from Minnesota available on flight service frequency.
You've dialed in the Flying Midwest podcast, connecting aviators from across America's heartland, sharing news, information, and events from around the region.
Calling Yankee 53 on Oga Tower, roger, turn left heading 070, runway 9er, clear for takeoff.
Sit back, relax, and join our crew for some hangar talk as we discuss a wide variety of regional aviation topics.
Archer 71143, flying flight, runway 28 left, push takeoff, left hand south first.
And now, from our home at the Anoka County Blaine Airport, our checklist is complete, and we're ready for departure for another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Contact departure, every flight.
What is going on, everyone? Jim here with the Flying Midwest podcast. So happy you're able to join us. On this bonus episode, we have a replay of an episode from last year about Simventure, the virtual Oshkosh fly-in presented by Pilotedge. Kevin joins us again in the intro to talk about how you can fire up your flight sim and participate in this year's event. So, strap in and let's take off into this bonus episode of the Flying Midwest podcast. Welcome everyone to the Flying Midwest podcast and a special bonus episode with Kevin from Pilotedge. Welcome back, Kevin.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Appreciate you having me on again.
Yeah, absolutely. So this special bonus episode is going to be a replay of last year's episode where you joined us, Kevin. You talked all about the Pilotedge product and most importantly, Simventure, which is coming up again for this year as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Simventure, fourth year that Pilotedge is putting it on again. And it's going to be a fantastic event as it has been the past three. I'm really excited for it. And if anyone has not yet heard about Simventure or had the opportunity to participate, listening to the episode you're about to hear is going to give you everything you need to know. It's very much like it will be, very much like it was last year. So it'll catch you up to speed.
So how was the event last year? You have a lot of participation or?
We did. We had over just over 2,100 arrivals in the 4-day span. We run about 3 to 4 hours a day, so roughly 12 or 13 hours of actual event time during those 4 days. And so, yeah, 2,100 arrivals at Oshkosh within the simulator, which is just really cool to think about how many that is. And it's neat to see it from our side too, to see all those airplanes come down the tracks and to work with the actual Oshkosh controllers. That's really the icing on the cake here. Is that we have those Oshkosh controllers who are volunteering out to help us out. And we oftentimes just get people saying, man, those guys sound really good. And I would hope so, because they are the real ones. So it was a terrific event last year and looking forward to the same this year.
Well, I imagine that helps some of them pregame a little bit too to get
totally
back into the swing of things.
That's a big reason why they do it, because for those who are unfamiliar, it's just a week long thing that these controllers who come from all over the country go to Oshkosh to do this. So even if it were Oshkosh year-round controllers, this would obviously be an event that was really pushing any sort of limits beyond the 51 weeks out of the year that Whitman Field sees. However, that's not even the case. It's controllers coming from towers from all around the country who just work Oshkosh for this 1 week, and obviously it's completely completely different from where they came from, and it's completely peculiar and unique arrival and departure procedures as well. So it is a really good warm up for them too. We've had some great success stories as well coming out from pilots who have flown Simventure beforehand. And then have then gone and flown, the next week, which is really the main goal of this whole thing. And we allow just flight sim users or those who are just unable to fly to Oshkosh for real, but our pilots and our sim users, we of course welcome them to fly for fly into Simventure for fun. But really the goal here is to prepare pilots to fly into Airventure. And that was kind of why we started it, is to have really what is the only preparation event for what is a likely one of the most challenging things any VFR pilot will ever do in their flying career.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's mutually beneficial as well for the controllers.
Totally. And they love it. They absolutely love it.
Awesome. So what are the dates for this year's event again?
This year is July 13th through 16th. So it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And again, we'll run between 3 and 4 hours a day. And those specific times are all published on pilotedge.net/Simventure.
Okay. And then I think last year we talked a little bit about some prizes that are available. Are you guys doing something like that again this year?
We are. So we've got our Fly to Win contest, which is something that we introduced last year, and we've grown it this year. We have just over 10. I think we're going to sit 11, 12, maybe even a little bit more than that, prizes to give away. Everything from we've got King Flight Schools, the famous John and Martha. They're giving away one of their virtual learning courses. We've got some flight simulator hardware, such as yokes, and even a Garmin 530 unit made for a flight simulator.
Oh wow!
We've got some really nice. We've got an Airbus joystick made by Thrustmaster. So we've got some top of the line products here. So those will go to a random handful of winners that we draw. Our system is able to track every arrival. And so for every landing you make at Simventure, at Oshkosh, you get one entry automatically. And you're capped at 15 entries. So the whole idea, really the whole premise of Simventure in general is for people to fly the arrival multiple times. And what that allows them to do is become familiar, because you might get runway 27, you might get runway 36, you might get 18 or 9, whatever it might be. And so every arrival is likely going to be different, whether it's a different runway or just a different dot assignment. It's going to be a different experience. So we want to encourage people to land and take off and come back and fly it all again. And we kind of create this giant revolving door of arrivals and departures, which is really neat. So in order to kind of promote that, we allow people to have up to 15 different entries in this contest. Again, automatic, and you really don't have to do anything to enter. You're automatically entered, and then we'll pull the winners afterwards. So we made a lot of people happy last year, and it'll be fun to do it again this year.
Well, that sounds really exciting, and hopefully that can be a big draw for you guys as well.
Absolutely. I mean, anything to help promote pilot proficiency and to get people to come out. And we're really grateful to our sponsors, Virtual Fly, Thrustmaster, Honeycomb, King Schools, Flight Outfitters, and Flight Sim Builder, Walker Air Transport, Virtual Airlines as well. They're all our prize sponsors this year. And then we've got plenty of great just kind of social media sponsors that we give tents to, including Flying Midwest Podcast. So I'll send over some pictures if you don't still have them from last year of your guys' tent that sits at the Simventure Oshkosh Airport. And it looks really nice and really makes the whole airfield look show ready when we have all these great companies and podcasts and products that are really featured as tents at the airfield, which is really cool.
Now, are we in the same spot as last year? Because I believe that we were really close to Brian Turner's tent for Just Plain Silly.
You got to watch out for him.
I think he has a virtual restrainer order against us, so I just want to make sure that we're not going to violate that. So.
We'll check and make sure.
All right. Yeah, he's a great guy. I like goofing around about him. So
he's funny.
So, well, I'm glad that we can help be a part of this and get the word out as well. So I hope that you guys have a successful event again this year. And without further ado, we will play our episode from last year.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on again, Kevin.
Absolutely.
And before we jump into this episode reload, a quick word from Lightspeed and Flying Eyes. Let's talk about Lightspeed Aviation and their brand of headsets. So we've talked the last couple episodes about their Delta Zulu headset. But if you're a new student pilot or just getting into A&R headsets, you may be looking for something a little lighter in the pocketbook. Well, check out the Lightspeed Sierras. I've been flying with the Sierra for the past decade, and they are a phenomenal headset. They've still got great active noise canceling, full Bluetooth integration, cell phone and music connection abilities, and comm priority so that you never miss a radio call. And when you're ready for that Zulu 3 or the Delta Zulu, they've got a trade-up program where you can earn up to $400 trade-in credit towards the latest in aviation headset technology. So if you're in the market for that new Lightspeed headset, check out our affiliate link right down in the show notes. So summer is officially here, and the sun is beating down on us in the aircraft and on the flight line. Picking the right sunglasses for when you fly can be really important. This is where Flying Eyes Optics comes in. If you've been flying around with those gas station sunglasses, you have definitely felt the pressure from your headset pushing those into the side of your head, which can make for a really uncomfortable flight. Flying Eyes was engineered by pilots for pilots. Their extremely lightweight patented material allows these temples to conform to your head instead of curving around your ears, giving you a better fit and seal for your headset. So if you need a new set of sunglasses before Oshkosh or any of those summer events or your summer flying, head on over to our affiliate link and use our coupon code for 10% off. That coupon code is flyingmidwest10, and that code and the link will be down in our show notes. Oh. Greetings, Kevin. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are really ramping things up with your social media stuff, so we're happy to bring you on as well and hopefully get some more word out for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Appreciate that.
I just have to say, before we start off, you guys have phenomenal service.
Thank you.
Not a subscriber currently, but I was a subscriber, I don't know, 6 months ago before I left on military orders. And yeah, it's just, you guys have an awesome service. So keep it up.
Fantastic. That's great. Absolutely. That's terrific. Thank you for that.
So what we want to do tonight, obviously, is talk about your product, the big Simventure event you guys have coming up. But as with every guest, we're going to put you in the hot seat for a minute, and we're going to just throw some fast, rapid-fire questions at you. It's a way for us to warm up, help you get a little acclimated to how we go about our business. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, question 1. Favorite aviation movie or movie quote?
Ooh, man. I think I got to go old school Top Gun with permission to buzz the tower.
No, no.
And now you and Trevor aren't friends because he hates Tom Cruise.
Gotta be airplane. Gotta be airplane.
This is Trevor. These are his opinions.
I know.
Okay. All right. Question 2 for you. What's your favorite flight sim program?
I'm a fan of X-Plane 11, just for the user friendliness of it, the UI. Everything is just a little more clean than FS 2020. But yeah, you can't undermine the graphics that Microsoft brings these days. But as far as the overall experience, I think X-Plane is still more reliable, more pleasurable.
Question 3. What do you consider a must-have flight simulator accessory? I think I should preface that. Obviously, you're going to probably want a yoke, a throttle, and some pedals.
I think, So I guess beyond those, I would say a headset for the purpose of talking to ATC, i.e., Pilotedge.
Ooh, good answer.
I saw you go with that. That was pretty good.
All right. Question 4 for you. If you could own one plane, what would it be?
Oh man, we're talking like GA, or are we talking anything?
Whatever.
Let's go with whatever you want.
Whatever I want. Oh man, I think I won't go super crazy. I am a big fan of the A350, but I'm not going to go that crazy with it. So I'm the Falcon products are pretty impressive. The 7X, the 8X. There's really not much those things can't do, I suppose, other than some short runway ops that maybe a King Air could do. But the Falcon series is pretty nice tall cabin and beautiful airplanes.
All right, final question for you, and I'm starting to actually really like this question, so it might become an all the time feature. Not that you're going to have to worry about that, but other people might. If there's any aviator that you could meet and have a conversation with, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh man, that's a really tough one. I think I've got to be. I got to side with the ATC side again and go Archie Lee, the very first air traffic controller ever.
Ooh, oh, cool.
And just kind of see, what things were like back then when he was directing airplanes with paddles and just basically visual signals to start, and the system improved greatly from there.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good answer. I like that. All right. So now that we got all those really hard questions out of the way, we'll dive into the meat and potatoes of the episode here. So you work with Pilotedge. Tell us about yourself and your history or origins within aviation.
Yeah, so I've been flight simming for maybe 17 years now. Got into the flight sim with ATC stuff maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago. And then, with VATSIM initially, and then Pilotedge was born in about 10 years ago, back in 2011. That's when they launched, October of 2011. And so I was in on the ground floor of that. I'm account number 7. And so I've been there from the start. I've seen it grow. I'm not the owner. Keith Smith is founder and CEO of Pilotedge, and he is the one who birthed the whole thing. He also started with VATSIM, and he was kind of the reason. Really, well, he certainly was the reason that Pilotedge came about. But VATSIM was a little bit of his inspiration in a way. There's no question that VATSIM has a great presence in the flight simulator community, but what it's really lacking is the quality of air traffic control and the presence of air traffic control. VATSIM is a hobbyist network where there's really no quality assurance. There's no one to hold the controllers responsible for both their work that they're doing and their presence. So what will happen is you're flying along your flight simulator, and the controller will just sign off, and poof, they're gone. You don't get that on Pilotedge. Pilotedge is 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a controller there, and they are ready to work you just like you would in the real airplane. And additionally, the controllers are all very professionally trained to serve as a virtual controller for the virtual national airspace system that is the Pilotedge network. So, anyways, that's kind of how Pilotedge became about in 2011. Keith Smith saw a need for a more professional style of network that would really benefit real world aviators and also be a benefit to the sim community as well, just the people who use flight simulators as hobbies. And so he started up Pilotedge with paid controllers on a schedule, and just a lot more of a professional side of things. And here we are 10 years later. It's grown immensely with, over, I think they're in the 40,000s on the accounts now. And, a lot more coverage area, a lot more airports they're covered than there were back 10 years ago. And now we're doing big events like Simventure as well, which help to prepare the real world aviation community and also provide a neat simulation experience for the hobbyists
that's pretty
out
awesome.
there.
I mean, your guys' network is mostly based in the Western US. So, Colorado and West. I think, like I said before, you guys provide a huge, really groundbreaking experience for a lot of student pilots, because they're first learning how to, talk to tower. They're first learning how to learn their verbiage, and you're not actually interacting with the airspace system, the national airspace system, through Pilotedge. So it's a great tool.
I know just oodles, especially IFR students, who really benefit from being able to talk to ATC, especially while you can't see, when you're in the middle of things and you're maybe even practicing something like an instrument failure or something like that. Being able to talk to an actual kind of ATC stand-in and be able to communicate those things, I know that really, really helps. Yeah,
it's a way to stay proficient from home and to make your simulation experience very realistic and meaningful. Adding the ATC into the mix, adding the live ATC into the sim, it introduces a level of accountability with your simulator that you've never seen before, because all of a sudden you have a reason to hold short of a runway, you have a reason to follow instructions and really brief procedures, because that if you mess up, someone's going to call you out on it. And just like it would happen in the real airplane. So it really elevates the simulation aspect of your sim, and it allows your home sim to be so much more valuable than before.
Do you think that your clientele is it a mix of pilots that are trying to improve their communication and just your hobbyists, or maybe
totally
more so simmers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the majority of the clientele are real world pilots, whether they're student pilots or licensed pilots, or maybe instrument students, whatever it might be. But there's no question there's a solid mix of just sim enthusiasts who are willing to pay the $19.95 a month to have a more realistic simulator experience, and also to have that ATC be guaranteed for them. Again, being able to hop on at any time, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, and know that there's going to be ATC where you expect them to be. It's not a matter of going around and seeking out who's on the other side of the radio. There's going to be someone there, and they're going to be of quality as well. But I think that overall, the majority are real world pilots, and the reason for that is that the real world pilots are the ones who would reap the most benefit from the $1995 investment per month, where they're able to stay proficient from their relatively inexpensive home simulator and not have to pay for fuel and such. Of course, you can't log currency in most sims. Certainly there are some sims that are of the higher monetary value where you can actually log approaches and things. But proficiency is a safety word. Currency is a legality. And to be able to stay proficient with, call it 20 or 30 minutes a night of just shooting one or two approaches, and being able to do that so efficiently because ATC is going to be at that airport in your sim, it's totally, it pays for itself in no time to be able to stay sharp in the airplane by just doing it from your living room for just a few minutes a night, between the time you have dinner and the time you got to go to bed.
And with gas prices nowadays, I'm sure that's
totally
becoming a lot more attractive to a lot of people.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason that a pilot should have to sacrifice proficiency because of fuel prices. It's not, you can't put a price on safety and proficiency. So, the ability to just kind of pay one price a month and, one very low price a month of $20 and have unlimited usage for the entire month is really terrific.
Yeah, and realistically, you can't go shoot an approach for $20 in your plane right now. There's no chance.
Yeah, and the time value as well. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire. The $200-$300 of fuel you're going to cost is not. That's not. You don't care about that. But what is valuable is your time, and the fact that it's going to take you. Even if you live, let's say, best case scenario, you live 10 minutes from the airport. I mean, you're going to spend at least 2 hours between travel time, pre-flight, post-flight, the flight itself. Whatever it might be. And then, one of these days you'll encounter a maintenance issue and you can't go flying at all. And you just wasted, a few hours going out to the airport for no reason. And you don't, so time is money, the very cliche statement, but it's true. And so for these people that, don't, the $300 to $500 doesn't matter to them. What does still matter is time. And that's what Pilotedge can give you.
That's awesome.
Are there requirements to be met to join Pilotedge?
No, not really. You just have to be 18 years or older. There is an exception if you're 16 or 17 and you have soloed an airplane in the real world. So if you have a student solo endorsement, you can still sign up if you're 16 or 17 years old. They just require proof of that endorsement. And other than that, you just need a working internet connection and a flight simulator headset, and you're good to go.
How about your ATC services? What kind of qualifications or training do you have those folks go through?
A big common question is, who are the controllers? So the controllers are a mixture of a lot of different backgrounds. So we do have some actual controllers, some former controllers, some student controllers, some military controllers, some wannabe controllers, and then also just some hobbyists who many of them are pilots or CFIs. One thing is for certain, and that is that they are professionally trained, and you really won't be able to tell who is and who isn't an actual controller for their non-sim job. And that training process is primarily on the job training. Pilotedge doesn't take any controller candidates who have zero background. So there is some sort of requirement to be had there. They obviously go through an interview process to kind of see where those people are at. Pilotedge just doesn't really have the resources to teach from the ground up. So they really need you to come in with some sort of background as a controller. And overall, the process takes about 3 to 6 months to get fully certified as a Pilotedge controller. Pilotedge knows that you're a paying customer and you expect a certain level of service. And if you don't get that, you're not going to be happy and you're not going to want to pay. So like I said, 3 to 6 months later, those guys and gals will be fully certified controllers on the network. It
almost makes me want to go and try to get on as a controller.
It's fun.
I think I could do it. I think I could probably do it.
Famous last words, Trevor.
Yeah. Right.
So is the same fee associated with those controllers as well?
No. So the controllers are the employees. So they're the ones the pilots are paying for. So the controllers are all paid, and that's why they can have that level of accountability that no other network can offer. They are, it is an assigned shift for them it's that sort of that's really what differentiates the network from others, and that's what allows the controllers to, I should say, allows Pilotedge to maintain a certain level of standard for their quality, and also allows them to hold them accountable to show up.
Yeah, I can see where that's a big difference from, say, like VATSIM, like you talked about earlier. That, I mean, you have people who can just disconnect if mom says it's time for dinner.
Right. Yeah. No, this is their job. Some of them a full-time job, others a part-time job. So it really, it's a great gig for them though, especially during COVID. They were able to just work from home.
Oh, sure. That's a great point too.
So about how many controllers do you have on per that 15 hours? At a time?
It really varies. I mean, I think the team is somewhere between 20 and 30 bodies as a whole. And every shift is an hour, every scheduled shift. So honestly, it varies between who's willing to work how long that day. Generally, because some people are part-time, some are full-time, it's not typical like 8-hour shifts. It's really kind of just popcorn shifts, as far as, some people work an hour, they take 4 off, they work another one, they take 3 off. Sometimes trying to fit it in with their other jobs, sometimes just trying to fit it in with their everyday life. So it's really nice and flexible job for these guys and gals.
Nice. And how quickly are you guys expanding? I heard you're mostly in the West Coast. How quickly are you trying to expand
that is our
to the rest
most
of the country?
That is the most frequently asked question, because everyone is very
Where's my airport?
Yes, that's exactly. So the short answer is there are no plans for expansion in any short term or even really long term at this point. I mean, I'm not going to say that they will never expand, but there's nothing in the works at the moment, and the reason behind that is that first I should mention that Keith Smith, founder and CEO, he lives in New Jersey. So, and he has lived in New Jersey for at least the past 15 to 20 years. So to my next point, I think it's very telling of the value of the point I'm about to make, that he lives in New Jersey and the coverage area is the western half of the United States. And that point is that it really doesn't matter where you fly your sim. The initial, oh man, that's too bad, of not being able to fly out of Orlando if you live in that area, it goes away pretty quickly when you figure out the value of adding ATC into your sim. Now, why don't we cover the entire country or even the world? There are 2 main reasons. Number one is money. Because the controllers are paid, the more airspace you add, the more controllers you have to have on. Therefore, the membership price goes up. The second reason is just because of the amount of complexity that it would add to everything, and also how much it would draw out the level of traffic that exists, right? So if you have 20 pilots and you put them all within, say, we'll just go to the extreme and just say, one small 20-mile radius, it's going to be a busy airspace. If you now broaden that out, you take 20 pilots and scatter them throughout the United States in various locations, you're going to be all alone. So there's a mixture there between having too much airspace, but also having enough that it's enticing to people, and still to create a busy-ish atmosphere within the sim. So between the costs for the user that would go up, the complexity of having to manage an entire country's worth of airspace from an operations side. What I mean by that is that the controllers all use real world procedures, real world SIDs, stars, things like that. So to have to essentially retrain controllers on so much of this information every single month when this stuff updates, whether it's just a SID or a star or a new procedure or what have you, the operating cost would skyrocket for that. So anyways, I say all that, just that if you are having that, oh man, that's too bad, they don't cover the East Coast, just keep, remember what I said at first, the founder and CEO chose to have the coverage area on the western United States, despite him living in New Jersey and flying out of New Jersey. And the reason for that is just because of the diverse airspace that you get out west. You've got everything: desert flying, mountainous flying, coastal flying. You've got everything out there. And there's also, you have very diverse airspace. You've got a ton of, Bravos, Charlies, Deltas. Of course, the East Coast has that too. But, I think just overall, the amount of diverse and complexity flying out west it's maybe a little bit higher. A sectional is a sectional, a class delta is a class delta. The rules and regs don't change. You still need your two-way radio communications. The ILS is the ILS. It's not an excuse if you blow a hold short line that, I'm sorry, tower, it's my first day or first time flying this airport. They're not just going to say, okay, no problem. Next time though, we're going to expect you to do it right. Anyways, all that to say that you can find an airport or airspace that's very similar to where you fly out of in the real world and still get just as much out of it in the sim, because you're now adding the ATC into it.
At some point, you're going to leave that comfortable, familiar, cozy airspace that you call home. And if you're too comfortable and not familiar with how to read those charts and diagrams and operate within that system, you might find yourself in some complicated situations. So that's
exactly.
I think that's a great point. It doesn't matter where in the country you're doing your simming, but the service is available. So that's
what we try and really stress to people. And it's one thing that, it's something they don't really realize until they try it. But once they try it, they say, you know what? Yeah, this, I can still relate this back to my home airport, even though I'm on the other side of the country in the sim.
So I'm going to transition us to, you guys have some sort of little event coming up, I think.
Yes.
I keep seeing it on the internet. It must be kind of a big deal. So let's talk about Simventure.
Let's talk about Simventure. So it's a virtual Oshkosh, essentially, is the main thing behind it. And the kicker is that we have the actual Oshkosh controllers who work up at Airventure. So wow. It's a lot of fun. It's really something unlike anything that the flight simulator world has ever seen before, aside from the other 2 times that we've done it in the past 2 years. But each year we keep getting it bigger and bigger. And the reason it's so unique is truly because of the talent we have with the actual controllers. I did mention earlier that on the everyday Pilotedge network, you can't tell the difference, but there's something about Oshkosh and the way that it is worked by the controllers, everything from the wing rocks to the very specific. I mean, if you listen to the tapes, it's, the controllers really are like, they're flying your plane for you. I mean, as far as their verbiage and, keeping there, hard turn, keep going. And, it's almost like, you talk about, or you hear about the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds and their cadence that the boss has with, a little more pull. And it's a very similar thing with something like Oshkosh, where the controllers have this cadence that just really, it just really entices the pilot to do exactly what they are saying in this way that, no one rehearses this, no one knows, but there's just a way that you can say something and make the pilot do it. And these guys and gals are so great at doing that. And you see them hop on Pilotedge and you fly the Fisk arrival in the sim, and it just puts a giant smile on your face, aside from all the sweat that's dripping down your forehead, because it's nothing like you've ever experienced before, with the amount of pressure you're feeling in your simulator in the most fun way possible, but also the most realistic way that you can think of. So the purpose behind Simventure is to hold a virtual Oshkosh, and the real reason is to prepare people who are actually going to fly to Airventure. And that's the honest mission behind the event, is to take someone who's planning to fly to Airventure at the end of July here and give them a way to practice the Fisk arrival in a very practical and realistic setting ahead of time. And that's both to make them comfortable, to make them more proficient, and to make Airventure safer for everyone, both in the air and the ground. A terrific byproduct of that is that if you are not flying the Airventure, and maybe you're not even a real pilot, you're just a sim enthusiast, you can still participate. So it's, we're there for the real world pilots and to prepare them ahead of time. But if you are not a pilot, or just a pilot not flying to Airventure this year, you can still have a blast and experience it all in the sim just a week and a half ahead of time.
That's awesome. So you said you've been doing this for you said this will be
this is number 3. This is year 3. Year 3. Yes.
So how did you guys come up with this concept of, hey, let's do a virtual Airventure?
Yeah, so this was actually pre-COVID. This was back maybe December. I'd say I'm going to call it January of 2020. It was 100% pre-COVID, though, at least pre-US COVID. And I went to Keith, founder and CEO, and I said, Keith, the company had been around for 6 or 7 years at the time. I said, I think that we have the talent, the knowledge, the user base, and most importantly, the technology to pull off something like a virtual Oshkosh. It had really never been done, the sim. That some people had tried, they did their best with it, but the difference of the technology that Pilotedge has, where the refresh rate of the wing rocks and everything is so great that everything, works well that way. And so he gave me the green light. He said, you know what, go run with it. I'll say he gave me the yellowish green light. He said, he said, let's see what you can do, and we'll go from there. So, but he did, he didn't shut me down, and he believed in me. And so I took, I took a little kind of beta group of about 20 people who were kind of frequented pilots of the Pilotedge network. And I reached out, I said, hey, this is kind of top secret right now, but we're considering doing a virtual Oshkosh, and we need to kind of do some testing to see if this concept would actually work in the sim. Everything from the wing rocks to being able to see other airplanes. I mean, obviously you can see other airplanes. That's the whole Pilotedge and multiplayer atmosphere that you get on the network every day. But can you actually see them as far as following them half mile and trail down the railroad tracks? And that was an unknown. Could the controllers see the airplanes from the ground? Things like that. So we within the sim, of course. So we did some test runs. They went very well. And I said, you know what? I think we could actually do this. I went to Keith. He said, okay, let's do it. And so then COVID hit. March 2020, the world changed forever. And EAA said, no Airventure. And at that point, it was kind of on us. We said, you know what, we were already kind of planning this. And now more than ever, we need to follow through on this and give people a reason to still fly the Fisk arrival in 2020 and still have some fun when everyone was having such a terrible summer. And so we took it by the horns. We reached out to NACA, National Air Traffic Controllers Association, and we got the contacts of some interested individuals who were former and current Airventure controllers. For those who are unfamiliar, the controllers are not actually based in Oshkosh. They are all from all over the country at various towers, and they bid every year to go to Oshkosh and work Airventure. They use their own leave. It's a voluntary thing. They don't get any bonuses to do it. They just do it because they love it. They love their job. They love aviation. They love the whole week of Airventure. So with that said, they were more than willing to help us do a virtual event, especially in the time that, was summer of 2020. And so we did it. It was great. It was fun. And we had over 1,100 arrivals in 4 days. Wow. We operate about 3 to 4 hours every day. So it was busy. I mean, we created a very busy Oshkosh in the sim. And so then fast forward to last year, 2021, we said, we had everyone begging us to do it again. And we said, of course, we're going to do it again. It was a great success. And so last year, the difference was Airventure was going to happen. So instead of doing it basically the week of Airventure, we decided, let's make this more of a training event instead of a kind of a nostalgic event that was 2020. We said, hey, let's really turn this into a training mission and allow people a chance to fly in the sim beforehand, because that's really, no one should, in my opinion, no one should be discouraged from going to Airventure because they're nervous or too scared to do the arrival. I think it's such a cool procedure. There's so much adrenaline behind it and so much, pressure and all that in a great way. And so, why not allow people to alleviate some of that stress in the sim so they can go in very, very familiar with the procedures. And so anyways, we took that approach last year, and it went terrifically. And so we're taking the same approach again this year. And every year we've added a little bit. So the first year was just the Fisk arrival, just some, just piston engines. Last year we added the Warbird arrival, which is, for those unfamiliar, that's the arrival for turboprops and jets as well, all VFR, mind you. And then we also added, and this is kind of where the technology plays in. So last year we added something called something called dynamic flagmen. And so what we do there, whether it's FSX, Lockheed Martin's Prepared, X-Plane 11, or Microsoft flights in 2020, we have custom scenery for all the sims, and specifically FS 2020 and X-Plane look phenomenal as far as the amount of detail and objects that are in the sim. But what we were able to do last year, and what we'll certainly do again this year, is we created a technology called dynamic flagmen, where we can inject flagmen in real time to point people in specific directions around the field. So for those familiar with Airventure, or I should say those who aren't, when you taxi around, there is no ground control. You're just looking for flagmen who are in these vests with flags, and they will direct you around the airport. You don't call ground. You just go, and the people point you into the right direction. And so that's what we have as well. So you land, you follow the flagmen to parking, or you're coming out, you follow the flagmen to the runway. And so we're able to do that also with injecting these dynamic flagmen. So that was kind of the big improvement last year, was the warbird arrival and the flagmen. And then this year we're taking all that and we're adding jets into it as well. I should say, sorry, last year we had the warbird arrival for turboprops only. This year we're also allowing small jets, pretty much your kind of like your single pilot type jets, so like Phenoms and smaller. So I expect like the Cirrus Vision jet will be pretty popular because it's an X-plane default airplane. Certainly the CJ that's in FS 2020 is going to be a popular one. So those kind of airplanes that we're looking for on the warbird arrival. So it's all still VFR though. Then the other big thing we're adding this year is a fly to win contest. We've got a prize pool worth over $2,500. And every time you take off or land at Oshkosh, you get automatically entered to win one of the prizes within the prize pool, which some of the top items are Bose A20 headset, sponsored by Bose. And
Nice.
then we also have some things from Thrustmaster. Their Boeing yoke from Thrustmaster, the Airbus Captain's Pack from Thrustmaster, which are some joysticks and yokes for your simulator. We've got a yoke from Honeycomb, and some other various items as well. So every time you take off or land, you get one entry into that contest, and then you'll be randomly selected at the end. And some people walk away with some pretty cool prizes.
That's really
So
cool.
I know what I'm going to
So
be doing
cool.
tomorrow before I go to school. I'm going to grab a Xbox. I'm going to download somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do it because I don't have internet here outside of my iPad. I'm going to download FS 2020 and I'm going to do this.
Well, unfortunately, we don't work on the Xbox. So Pilotedge is only for PC and or Mac for X-Plane as well. So it's got to be on the PC. There is no way currently to hook up your Xbox to any sort of air traffic control network. The add-ons for Xbox are really lacking as far as the interface and how to do that. So you'll need a PC to do that, or like I said, a Mac for X-Plane as well. But even if you have a dinky little laptop, FSX will do the job as well. Back in the day, FSX took a computer about the same value as what would run FS 2020 today. But now any little thing you'd find on the side of the road could run FSX.
That's very true. I might still try to download on my Surface.
Sure.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
You're
give
not
it a
out of
shot.
this yet, Trevor.
Yeah. Fight for it.
Right.
We also have our own notice, previously known as the NOTAM, but it is now this year in 2022, EAA has changed the name from NOTAM to notice. So we have done the same. We write our own notice. It mirrors the EAA procedures, but the only reason we write our own is for the little things, like the little, for instance, reminding people you have to fly with clear skies and calm winds. That's always a requirement, just because if one person has a headwind, one person has a tailwind, it's really going to screw everything up.
Sure.
So, and also if there's a storm that rolls through Oshkosh that day, we don't want Simventure to be affected with that. But all in all, this is the only way that pilots can actually practice the FISC arrival in a practical means. If you were to take your airplane up to Oshkosh today, the beginning of July, and call up Oshkosh Tower, you're not going to get a dot to land on. They're not going to tell you to rock your wings. In fact, Oshkosh Tower is just a bunch of contract controllers. They're not even FAA Tower. That's not to belittle them or discount them by any means. But my point in saying that is just that it's a very standard, simple Class Delta airport 51 weeks out of the year. So, sure, you could go technically fly up the railroad tracks right now, but no one's going to tell you to do anything. And you're just going to end up calling Oshkosh Tower like you would any Class Delta. They're going to just tell you to make straight in for a runway and you're clear to land. It's going to be, there's going to be no real value behind it other than getting the lay of the land of the airport, which you could just do on Google Earth. So I think that being able to actually do this in your simulator and hear what the kinds of words the ATC is using, the kind of cadence they use, the various procedures, that's really where the value comes. And, we encourage people to fly the arrival as many times as they want throughout all 4 days. We hold the event July 14th through 17th. We run between 3 and 4 hours every day. That's posted online at pilotedge.net/Simventure. And we encourage people to fly as many times as possible. That's kind of one of the big operational differences between Simventure and Airventure, is that at Airventure, you fly in, you land, you park, and you stay a while. In Simventure, you really have no reason to park and stay a while because it's just in the sim. So we encourage people to land and actually taxi right back for takeoff. So we actually kind of have this big loop of airplanes that will, they land and they taxi and they take off. They come back around, they fly up the tracks, they land, they taxi, take off. They do it all over again. And the reason for that is because not only do you have the railroad track and the Fisk Avenue transitions off the Fisk arrival, but off of that, you also have the green dot, the orange dot, the purple dot, whatever it might be. The odds of you flying 2 consecutive approaches of the same nature, landing on the same dot, getting the same transition, are very low. And so by flying the approach numerous times, not only are you gaining more entries into the contest, but you're familiarizing yourself all the more with all the procedures that Airventure has to offer.
So cool.
Yeah, it's a really neat concept. I was intrigued by it when we first saw your information about it. So I'm really glad that this worked out. That you can chat with us about this. So
absolutely.
Is there anything else that you want to add about Simventure or plug anything else with that?
Yeah, I'd say earlier I did say, $20 a month for Pilotedge, but everyone is afforded a free trial as well. So if you have not tried Pilotedge, wait until, and the free trial is 2 weeks of 2 weeks past your sign up date, or 5 hours of network connectivity time. So we are actually now within 2 weeks of Simventure ending. It ends on the 17th. So therefore you could go sign up for Pilotedge today. And as long as you don't burn through all 5 hours of your network connectivity time, you'll be good to fly for 5 hours of Simventure, which should be enough to get you 2 or 3 times down the tracks at least. So I would encourage everyone to do that, especially if money has always been kind of the stopping factor, or the coverage area. You live in Florida or whatever it is, and that's always been your hesitation to get Pilotedge. Give this a try. You're going to have the most fun you've ever had in your sim. I can pretty much guarantee it. And you might exhaust all 5 hours and want to pay $20 a month to keep going, at least for Simventure week. So it's completely up to you there. Also, if you're listening to this and you don't have a sim, there is still time. Like you all were saying, if you have an existing computer, give it a try. You can grab FSX on Amazon for probably $10 or less, eBay maybe. And I use FSX as an example just because it you could run it on a potato, versus you need but if you have a gaming computer, then all the better. You can X-Plane 11 or Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 to enter the modern day flight simulator world. So don't give up thinking, this would have been really fun if I'd known about this a month ago and I would have had time. No, if you have access to a computer, you should be able to make this happen. And just go grab yourself a $20 joystick. And again, X-Plane or Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 or FSX. Load it up on your computer and get going.
Awesome. I might just have to get on there too.
We'd love to see you there. And then you guys, I sent you the video. The photos of your Midwest podcast tent.
Yes, that is awesome. So, that's very cool.
I'm so excited about that.
You'll see that when, everyone has a great time checking out the scenery too. I mentioned that we put out the custom scenery for the Oshkosh for the Sims, and it's a lot of fun just to taxi around and see kind of who's there and who's not there really, but who's there without being there, right? And just we're so grateful for all of our sponsors who have helped us out in getting the word out, because behind our mission of preparing pilots to fly into Airventure, it only works if people know about Simventure. And unfortunately, many people will not hear about Simventure, but we try and hit as many as we can. And I encourage everyone listening to tell their friends. If you know of someone heading up to Airventure this year, say, hey, I heard this podcast. They were talking about this thing called Simventure, and it sounds like it would actually make flying into Oshkosh a lot safer for you, and you should check it out. So pilotedge.net/Simventure, social media @Pilotedge ATC on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and you can find all the information there.
Wonderful. We'll make sure we pass that information along. We'll include all those links in our show notes as well for everyone who is interested. And we will kind of see you there.
Exactly.
We will virtually see
you there.
I did want to point out one quick thing. I noticed in looking at Brian Turner from Just Plain Silly, his page, his tent is a little too close to us for the restraining order that he has against us. So we might have to move just to make sure we don't violate that. And he calls like the cops or the virtual police or the physio. So
well, we'll just pull a bonanza in between you guys' tents, and that'll kind of keep you guys on the right side of the wings of each other.
Okay, we like it.
Perfect.
So before we go, like with every guest,
yes,
we need to find out what your unpopular aviation opinion is.
Yes. So my unpopular opinion is that that flight simulators can be a very valuable training tool for real world flying. A lot of people see them as just toys or games. People might walk into a house and see a joystick sitting there and say, "Oh, that's fun. You must do some barrel rolls and in that new flight simulator that came out." But that's not true. Flight simulators can truly be a very valuable asset to your flight training and furthermore your flight proficiency once you're already a rated pilot. For a very low cost, really a one-time upfront cost of getting the sim, which might be several $1,000s if you're looking to really get something of a lot of I don't want to say value, because you can still get a lot of value out of an inexpensive simulator with just a joystick. But if you want to get something very fancy with an actual G1000 unit that's sitting on your desktop to really hone in on that muscle memory of pushing and twisting and pressing buttons, it is going to run you several $1,000s, but in the end it will pay for itself, and you can't put a price on safety.
Amen to that.
I like
Absolutely. I'd say think of another one, because you're right. It's not even an opinion. You're just right.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, there are people who at least. Maybe disagree is the wrong word, but initially they would say, "Oh, I don't need a flight simulator. That's just a toy. I fly all the time, my own."
Oh, for sure.
And so, or some people's simulator experiences have not been great. They tried the old Frasca at their flight school, or their old Redbird at their flight school, and it just wasn't great, or they didn't have good instruction or good training on how to use it and how to really maximize it. That's one thing that we actually see with Pilotedge is people that just they sign up and they say, "Well, now what do I do?" It's like, "Well, go fly." And they say, "Yeah, but what do I do?" And that's where the CAT ratings, I talk about communication airspace training ratings, and then the I ratings. That's where those come in handy. People like having some sort of mission and kind of itinerary to follow, especially when it's really challenging them, teaching them and pushing their limits. So, but the Pilotedge community is so great. There's a big Discord community. If you're on Discord, pilotedge.net/Discord, you can get in with that. Find some people to fly with virtually, do some group flights, load up at an airport, a non-towered airport, and just, bomb the pattern with, 8 or 9 airplanes, all, with constant radio chatter. So there's a lot of fun you can have in the sim when you add that multiplayer and ATC atmosphere to it. And, while it's also fun, it's also a great training experience as well.
In unrelated news, we're going to discontinue the podcast because we're probably just going to be flight simming from now on. So we're not going to have time to make this podcast anymore. So thanks a lot, Kevin.
Welcome to the Midwest Flight Simming Podcast.
Yeah, right.
I have to agree with your sentiment of flight simulator. So no, you can't use flight sim for your takeoffs and landings. Yeah, sight picture, yada yada yada. But where it really comes into play is, like we talked about, interacting with ATC. Maybe flying your, if you're a private pilot getting ready to fly your cross country solo, that's a great use of it too, because you have all your VFR checkpoints, your IFR procedures, all that sort of stuff. So I wholly support and wholly agree with utilization of flight sim. So I don't think you're going to find a whole lot of people that'll sit there and say it's an unpopular aviation opinion. Just going to
well, good.
Go out there
I'm glad.
Put that out in the hemisphere.
Well, gentlemen and lady, I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure to meet you all, and I'm glad we were able to make this work after several attempts. But I'm glad we could finally schedule it and chat with you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been great having you on. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, absolutely. You all have a great night. Thanks again.
You too.
You too.
course.
Thanks, Kevin.
Right.
Good
Take care.
night.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was so much fun to talk to him about that.
Oh yeah, that was great.
And I wasn't kidding. Like I could see myself jumping on a flight sim program again. My current computer, like he says, FSX runs on a potato essentially. So I'm going to try that on my current computer because FS 2020 does not like my computer. So
No.
this gives me a reason to go check that out again.
My computer's a potato.
It's a potato.
Go to Simventure, guys. If you have a sim, just go. Do
Just
the
do it.
thing. Get your free trial of Pilotedge and like skedaddle over and do the Fisk arrival. It's fun. It's
you're
terrifying
not-
in real life, but it's fun.
So thanks everyone for listening to this bonus episode of the Flying Midwest podcast. A reminder, Simventure is July 13th through the 16th of 2023. More information on that event is at pilotedge.net. They've got information about how to join their community, as well as information on this year's Simventure. A reminder for all our listeners out there, if you want to participate in our Airventure call-in extravaganza spectacular, that date again is July 11th. We'll be recording that evening. We may even go live on one of our social medias so people can comment in if they want to do that as opposed to getting their voices onto the podcast. But if you'd like to be on the podcast, we would love to hear from you, hear about your Airventure stories from years past, or what you're looking forward to this year. It's meeting me and Maddie, right? That's the top of everyone's bucket list for Airventure this year, meeting me and Maddie. Well, if you're so inclined, go ahead and reach out to us on any of our social medias, or you can email us, flymidwestpodcast@gmail.com, to be part of that episode. We will be back with you next Monday, July 3rd, with another bonus episode featuring Brian Turner and Andrew from METAR AF, a really fun real-time weather application that gives you METARs from your local airport with the sarcasm and flair that you would expect from the one and only Brian Turner. So that's all for this episode. Until next time, see ya!
Flight 536, contact Minneapolis Center 132.35 today.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Flying Midwest podcast. Until next time, podcast service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Good day.